I was in daycare as a child. I had very long hair that my dad always put into a ponytail. There was a girl that would pull my ponytail all the time. We were doing the musical chairs thing at the end of the day while parents were picking us up. The girl was behind me and kept yanking my ponytail. I kept telling her to stop. The teacher didn't see anything, so I can't do anything about it. There were a bunch of parents waiting for us to finish our game. My mom was like, nope, I didn't see anything. Didn't even get in trouble.
I'm from San Diego, and during the summer, you have to acclaim bonfire pits on the beach really in the morning if you want it for that night. So my friends and I got to the beach at 8 a.m. and stayed there so we can get a bonfire going into the night. Just before sundown, this one couple asked if they could share the bonfire with us, and since our group wasn't too big, we decided to share it with them. However, that couple proceeded to bring a group of like 15 others, and they literally surrounded the pit and pushed us out. We were pissed, but we were so tired from being at the beach all day, so we decided to head out. Little did we know what that night had an extreme high tide warning, and when we moved all of our stuff over the wall that divided the beach walk with the beach, a huge wave came in and washed out that whole group surrounded by our bonfire. The wave flipped over their table of food, took a handful of sandals back into the ocean, and destroyed all their stuff. The best part was this one girl was trying to jump the wall to save herself, but she didn't jump high enough and ended up falling right back into the waters. My old manager was a monster. Belittled people, made a hostile environment, denied anything that would make coworkers happy while giving himself every comfort, even denied me a half day to go to my mother's funeral, adding, would it be a big deal if you couldn't go? He finally stepped on his dick after he wrote up a fictitious counseling statement about someone, and the entire office revolted. The manager wasn't fired like we wanted, but he was relieved. So in comes the new manager, very well regarded, 20-year Air Force veteran, retired at E9, humble guy who knew how to handle people. We have our first awkward team meeting, old manager bitterly in attendance. As the new manager is giving his nice to meet you speech, he sees a douchebag glaring around the table trying to intimidate people. He stops talking, pauses for a few seconds, and then says, you know, when I was in the Air Force, I learned that if you take care of your people, they'll take care of you. He then stared directly at the old manager and said, and if you don't take care of your people, they'll take care of you. He then stared directly at the old manager and said, and if you don't take care of your people, they'll take care of you. Happened to me at work. Meth head was trying to pay with like 1,000 coins for a $5 scratch off. She tried to say she was only 10 cents short, ended up being over $1 short, then complained and said any decent person would have spotted her the money. Pretty much told her she could go down the street and try there if she'd like. She pulled out a 20 and bought 2. As she walked out the store, she said, karma is a bitch. When she gets to her car, a cop pulls up behind blocking her in. They proceed to search the car, then arrest her and her boyfriend. It was hilarious. Effer. Since people are curious about why they searched the car, there was more to the story, but I was typing it on my phone at work. There were 4 meth heads in total. She was just the only one that was giving me a problem. The cops showed up in the parking lot either already looking for these people or just by coincidence. They knew the car. It was beat up and pretty recognizable if you happened to see it. 2 of the guys saw the cops when they were outside smoking the cigarette while I was dealing with her. They came inside and went out the other door. She went back out to the car a few minutes later where the driver, her boyfriend I'm assuming, was already in the car. They searched it because they talked to them, ran their IDs, and they both had warrants. They were already in handcuffs in the police car when they searched the meth head's car. I worked as a bartender at a bowling alley. For some reason, one of the other bartenders hated me. She was constantly poaching people on my side. Horseshoe-shaped bar, so we each got a side. We split tips, and whenever it was her turn to count them down, I know she wasn't splitting them properly. Tried to get the scheduling manager to put her on my days, etc. One of my regulars even said she caught her pocketing tips and not putting them in our communal bucket while I was working with her. Well, tournament season started, which everyone looked forward to. Dreaded because the shifts were 2 or 3 times as long as normal, and there was a constant rush of people at the bar. Looked forward to because shifts were 2 or 3 times as long as normal, and there was a constant rush of people at the bar. Looked forward to because shifts were 2 or 3 times as long as normal, and there was a constant rush of people at the bar. Looked forward to because shifts were 2 or 3 times as long as normal, and there was a constant rush of people at the bar. Looked forward to because shifts were 2 or 3 times as long as normal, and there was a constant rush of people at the bar. Looked forward to because shifts were 2 or 3 times as long as normal, and there was a constant rush of people at the bar. Looked forward to because shifts were 2 or 3 times as long as normal, and there was a constant rush of people at the bar, so we'd make as much in a day as we did in a week. Well, the first tournament was teams that she considered hers. They bowled on her side on days she worked, so she knew them well and was looking forward to their tournament tips. She came in, saw that I was scheduled to bartend that day, and flipped out. She started ranting to the manager, who happened to be the scheduling manager, and the owner of the place happened to be standing there.
The owner pretty much said I was one of the better bartenders, so I was getting put on the tournaments, and if she didn't like it, she could just leave. My coworker left, and then I got to work her normal shifts as well.
I went to a small school of about 80 students. In my class, there was 12. Although our numbers were small, we still had the classic bully archetype. Let's call him Christopher. Christopher was one of those kids who felt like he could do whatever he wanted to anyone else, and he would be absolved of all blame if he finished his routine with, "It's just a joke." Basically, he was a grade A prick. And of the second major character, there was also a mentally challenged kid in our class. Let's call him Todd. Now, Todd was fond of asking questions. It was just his own way of obtaining information. I know this might sound bad, but we got annoyed with him pretty soon. Hey, we were just kids. Now, although Todd annoyed us, we still all looked after him and made sure nobody gave him shit. He was one of us. Sometimes that was a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. The karmic incident took place once when we were the oldest year in the school. We basically ruled the school, and naturally this power would go to our heads, and it corrupted nobody quite as much as Christopher. We were playing rounders, kind of a UK baseball, practicing for an upcoming competition. Split up into two teams and made play each other. I was kind of mad because Todd was on my team, and as you can imagine, he wasn't the most athletically gifted. Picture Kermit the Frog trying to run the 110-meter hurdles. That unathletic. We were losing, due in no small part to the other team's superior members. I had lost interest and only gave lackluster hits when it was my turn. Then it was Todd's turn. I watched just to see how it would go. And I looked at the other team. Christopher was pitching the ball. He wasn't even giving Todd a chance. He'd throw the ball at his feet and burst out laughing with his team. Babe Ruth couldn't have a damn thing with those kind of throws. It went on for 3 minutes. Eventually his own team got sick of him and told him to give a decent throw so Todd could strike out and the game could progress. He throws it, and Todd braces himself. We're all watching by now. Todd has tears in his eyes, the kind of thing humiliation does to someone like that. And as the ball draws closer, the world moved in slow motion for me. Whack. Todd didn't just hit the ball with the bat. He fucking annihilated it. The bang was heard all over the school. It sounded like a bomb had gone off, localized entirely around the side of the bat. So what does a ball do when it's met with a force like that? I don't know for sure, but in this case, it went back towards Christopher at Mach speed. I didn't even see the ball on its way back. It was like a bullet from a pistol. When it got to Christopher, it hit him squarely in the eye. He fell down, out cold. One of his friends helped him inside, while the rest of us, both teams, cheered and laughed. We lifted Todd on our shoulders and gave him a hero support. He was no longer just Todd. He was Todd, the destroyer of assholes. I used to live a street or two behind a central suburban bus stop on top of a big hill, and I would take the bus every day to university about an hour's bus ride away. One morning I get on the bus and the bus pulls up to the intersection, waiting for the intersection lights to turn red, so it gets the green and pulls out. We get the green and start pulling out. All of a sudden this primped up snooty middle-aged woman in a red suit, I still remember the details because it made me so mad, flew through the red light in her huge silver Cadillac going the same way that the bus was turning. The bus driver had to slam on the brakes quite suddenly and then honked at the woman. The woman, who clearly intentionally ran the red because the head was never down, flips the bus driver off and keeps speeding. The bus driver, this really jovial, large black lady, cursed and carried on. From the bus terminal to the city, you drive down a really big hill before it flattens out in the valley. In the mornings, evenings, cops like to patrol the intersection right at the bottom of the hill, especially because they can radar gun cars coming down the hill as the bus was. Because there is a curve in the road, and if you're going too fast, the cops can catch you before you have a chance to see them and slow down. Well, guess what happened? We get to the bottom of the hill and see that the cops had pulled over a silver Cadillac into the cross street and were issuing her a ticket. The bus driver saw it and said, "Oh yeah, baby," and pulled the bus over to the sidewalk near to where the intersection was and flagged down one of the cops. He came on and asked what was up, and the bus driver asked if she had been caught speeding. The cop said she had, and the bus driver said, "Oh yeah? Is it still illegal to run a red light?" The cop laughed and said that it was, then asked her if the lady in the caddy had done that, and the bus driver said yes. The cop asks, "Well, we will add that to her ticket. Would you be willing to come in as a witness in court for that?" Then the bus driver said, "Honey, I get paid to go to court for stuff like this. It'd be my pleasure." And the whole bus started clapping. It was such a good day. I was working at a mental health facility for the elderly as a nurse. Worked there for over a year with a perfect work record. I worked for the same company at another elderly facility, also for the same amount of time, with a perfect work record. A coworker found out I have PTSD and decided to tell my boss at the psych facility that I have PTSD, and the two together plotted to have me committed. One day in October 2012, they launched their attack. I was working a 7 a.m. 3 p.m. shift and doing very well for 2 hours when my boss called me into her office to congratulate me on 1 year service. When we were in her office alone, she started grilling me about my mental health and how it plays out at home.
Next thing I know, she's forcing me to call my coworker who was off duty and making me go with her to the psych emergency because I have PTSD.
The entire meeting was designed to stress me out and cause me to be triggered enough to behave poorly or crazy somehow to rationalize the next step, which was cart me off to emergency. And when they see me, they will instantly know I belong locked away in a padded room. They didn't, though. The hospital said I was fine, just stressed out about being forced to go to the hospital like a crazy person for no reason other than admitting I had PTSD. After the hospital let me go, my boss put me on extended medical leave without telling me and ignored all my calls for 2 weeks. Wrote letters lying about me to her bosses in the HR dep. I filed a union grievance and a complaint with a third-party whistleblower company for my company's head office to hear about. My boss lied about me to everyone. She said I told her I had a murderer in my head, that I was standing in front of mirrors with knives wanting to cut flesh. They believed her, so they shut down my complaints.
I took it to the Human Rights Tribunal, self-represented against the largest long-term care provider in North America, and I fucking won. Took 3 long years from incidents to end of court. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. My employer's health declined considerably by the time trial happened. She lost her job, she had to move to the mainland, and there's a forever public record about what she did. The coworker who helped my boss is in the permanent record, and the employees of the job site were ordered to learn of what she and our boss had done to me and the outcome. She will never be comfortable at that job site again, and what she is known to all. I got the highest amount awarded for damages to dignity and self. I created a precedent for other ITSD persons with clean work history who do a good job on the clock but have very real struggles with ATSD symptoms at home.